This year's hurricanes are a taste of the future. We're going to be having Harveys, Irmas, and Marias as far as the eye can see. Dr. Carrie Emanuel from MIT said this back in 2017.
New drone footage shows Milton's destruction on the west coast of Florida.
Just take a look behind me. You can see that the surf is still roaring.
So schools, hospitals, and homes have also been damaged. Trees have been uprooted.
There is high confidence that this hurricane is going to pack a major punch.
And after analyzing last year's hurricanes, I understand exactly what he meant. 2024 wasn't just another hurricane season, it was a meteorological nightmare that saw a staggering 22 named storms, with these 7 cyclones standing out as the most destructive, record-shattering monsters in recorded history.
That's easily the strongest wind we're feeling right now.
At number 7, we have the late-season Hurricane Bonanza.
While a hurricane can show up early and stay late, it's not likely that it would affect the official timing of hurricane season.
It was late September, and most folks are thinking of pumpkin spice and Halloween, but that went out the window faster than emergency evacuation plans. Instead, we got a new record for late-season hurricane formations. Let's break down what actually happened. After September 25th, we didn't just get a few late-season storms, we got 7 full-blown hurricanes. This level of late-season activity hadn't been seen in 19 years, making the 2024 season truly unprecedented. Take Hurricane Isaac. This beast formed on October 3rd, spinning up with wind speeds of 145 miles per hour, typically unheard of that late in the season. It slammed into the Lesser Antilles, causing $2.3 billion in damage and leaving entire islands looking like they'd been put through a blender. Hurricane Kirk, even more bizarre, formed on October 22nd with rapid intensification that broke every existing model. We're talking about a storm that went from a tropical depression to a Category 4 in just 36 hours. Coastal communities in Puerto Rico were decimated with over $1.7 billion in infrastructure damage. When put together, the numbers tell a shocking story. 7 hurricanes after September 25th, $5.9 billion in total damages, and 127 confirmed fatalities. But these late-season hurricanes were just the tip of the iceberg. The real story is what was brewing across the world, and it's about to blow your mind.
Landfall Thursday morning, Typhoon Sansan thrashed southwest Japan with torrential rain and wind gusts strong enough to blow over moving trucks.
Number 6. Shanshan, a name that typically means a beautiful young girl in Chinese, became anything but gentle in 2024. This typhoon transformed from a delicate name into a force of destruction.
3 people have died in a landslide as Japan is lashed by Typhoon Sanshan.
Even areas hundreds of miles away from the storm's core have been affected, with houses and vehicles submerged in floodwaters.
For an unbelievable 168 consecutive hours, that's 7 full days, Typhoon Shanshan unleashed a relentless assault of rainfall that defied every meteorological expectation. The Japanese Meteorological Agency watched in disbelief as Shanshan crawled across the landscape at a mere 15 kilometers per hour. Most typhoons rush through. This one, it lingered, and lingered, and lingered. Let that sink in. 168 hours of non-stop rain.
This typhoon is scary, says Norimasa Sankonashita. In terms of disaster, we're getting a large amount of rain.
The storm dumped a mind-boggling 1.2 meters of rain, that's nearly 4 feet of water, across multiple prefectures. What made Shanshan truly terrifying wasn't just its strength, it was its incredible, mind-numbing persistence. For the victims, it felt like a hostage situation.
Concerned because I obviously do not want to miss our flights back to New York. So if the power failures really continue to go on for the next couple of days, then we'll be stuck here a little bit longer.
But if you thought Shanshan was bad, just wait until you hear about our next cyclone.
The aftermath in Mayotte is catastrophic. Now the cyclone is moving through the Mozambique Channel, with those in its path bracing themselves.
This storm didn't just destroy communities, but entire economies. At number 5, we're diving into Cyclone Chato. Chato was a financial apocalypse that tore through the southwest Indian Ocean like a wrecking ball. becoming the most expensive cyclone in this region. $3.9 billion in damage, 172 lives lost. Entire regions transformed from thriving communities to disaster zones in the blink of an eye. In Mozambique, the destruction was total. Whole villages simply vanished. Homes that had stood for generations, structures that had weathered countless storms, were reduced to splinters in just hours. Malawi got hit even harder. The island territories of Agalega and Mayotte looked like they'd been erased from the map. Coastal erosion devoured beaches. Infrastructure crumbled like it was made of sand. Essential services went dark. But something more menacing was about to brew that made Chido look like child's play. Get ready for Typhoon Yagi.
Super Typhoon Yagi, Asia's most powerful storm this year, has arrived in Vietnam.
At number 4, a storm that didn't just cross borders, it obliterated them. A force of nature so powerful that shut down entire countries.
Typhoons are worse in the years of the dragon, and this year is the year of the dragon, so that's why people are really cautious.
This was a monster, with winds reaching a mind-blowing 150 miles per hour.
Wind speeds exceeding 149 kilometers an hour. According to local state media, the typhoon uprooted thousands of trees and swept ships and boats out to sea.
This was a multi-country demolition tour. In the Philippines, Yagi didn't just bring rain, it unleashed floods and landslides that wiped entire communities off the map. Homes, livelihoods, entire histories, gone in an instant. And just when you thought it was done, Yagi set its sights on China. Here's where it gets wild. This storm was so intense that the Hong Kong Stock Exchange had to shut down, even closed the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. Imagine shutting down something as critical as the Golden Gate Bridge. But Yagi wasn't finished. It bulldozed into Vietnam, causing flooding that displaced thousands. Entire villages underwater, infrastructure damaged beyond recognition. The numbers are terrifying. $844 deaths, over $15.1 billion in damage across 8 countries. This was Mother Nature showing us exactly who's in charge. And if you think Yagi was the worst nature could throw at us in 2024, just wait until you hear about the hurricane that turned the Carolinas into an underwater nightmare. A storm so brutal, it would make Hurricane Katrina look like a summer breeze. The numbers tell a brutal story. 230 lives lost. Entire coastal regions transformed into disaster zones. Emergency services overwhelmed. Rescue teams struggling to reach communities submerged under unprecedented flooding. We present to you at number 3, Hurricane Helene. In North Carolina's coastal regions, the storm's surge reached heights meteorologists had never recorded before. Some areas saw water levels 15 feet above normal, turning streets into rivers and neighborhoods into lakes. The Cape Fear River swelled to record levels, breaching levees and flooding communities that had stood for generations. Power grids across 3 counties went dark, leaving over 450,000 homes without electricity. The economic impact was catastrophic. Initial estimates put the damage at over $12.5 billion, with entire agricultural regions wiped out. Hurricane Helene was a catastrophic disaster, but months earlier, a hurricane had shocked the world by forming impossibly early, becoming the earliest Category 5 hurricane on record. A storm so unusual that it forced meteorologists to rewrite their understanding of hurricane prediction. Climate scientists had been warning for years about shifting weather patterns, but nobody expected a hurricane like Beryl. June 25th, 2024. Most people were planning summer vacations, thinking about beach trips and barbecues, but a tropical wave off Africa's west coast had other plans. Within days, what started as a minor disturbance transformed into something meteorologists had never seen before. By June 28th, the system organized into a tropical depression.
It's 10 a.m. and now it's part 2.
But Beryl wasn't interested in taking its time. It grew explosively, evolving from a whisper to a roar in record time. On July 1st, it made landfall on Carriacou Island in Grenada as a high-end Category 4 hurricane, the earliest such intense storm ever recorded in the Atlantic. The impact was devastating and immediate. Carriacou looked like it had been put through a blender. About 95% of residents lost power. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, over 90% of homes were damaged or destroyed. 6 lives were lost. Over 6,000 houses were damaged. What made Beryl truly shocking wasn't just its early arrival, but its intensity. Wind speeds reached a terrifying 160 miles per hour, tearing through infrastructure like tissue paper. This was a hurricane that looked more like a late August monster, not something brewing in early summer. Preliminary estimates put the damage at over $2.3 billion. But if you think Beryl was an anomaly, just wait until you hear about the hurricane that would make even Beryl look like a warm-up act. Picture this. One day, a tiny disturbance in the Gulf of America. The next, a full-blown Category 5 hurricane with 180-mile-per-hour winds. Here's the wild part. It went from a tropical depression to a Category 1 hurricane in just 2 days. But it didn't stop there. Within 24 hours, this overachiever cranked it up to Category 5. We're talking about a storm that went from meh to run for your lives, faster than you can blink. At number 1, we are talking about Hurricane Milton. The Gulf of America was like a pressure cooker for this storm. The water was so warm, it was practically begging for a hurricane to form. Climate scientists are saying these conditions were made hundreds of times more likely because of climate change. It's like we've turned the Gulf into a 24/7 hurricane factory. When Milton hit Florida, it hit hard. We're talking about 2.9 million homes and businesses left in the dark. An unprecedented blackout for such a rapidly developing storm. Streets turned into rivers, houses into islands. At least 24 people lost their lives in this chaos. So why did Hurricane Milton take first place? Because of how incredibly unpredictable it was. Here's the kicker. Our warning systems? They're designed for hurricanes that take their time forming. But Milton formed in an instant and in the most unusual place. A hurricane forming in the Gulf of America is unheard of for decades. 2024's cyclone season shattered records, leaving even seasoned meteorologists baffled. These aren't just random storms. They're a terrifying glimpse into our climate's future. Want to know how we got here? Check out the next video, where I break down exactly why these monster storms are becoming our new normal. Climate change isn't just cranking up the heat, it's creating perfect conditions for hurricanes to form and intensify faster than ever before. Milton and Cheetah weren't flukes, and they're a warning. And trust me, this isn't about fear-mongering. This is about understanding what's coming so we can prepare. The future of storm seasons is looking intense, and if you want to stay ahead of the curve, hit that subscribe button and join the Vortex Files community, because when it comes to understanding these monsters, knowledge isn't just power, it's survival.